Welcome to the Ask Me How I Know show. I'm your host, Julie Holly, and I'm so excited you're here. Ask Me How I Know is the only podcast in the multifamily niche replicating what takes place outside the walls of a seminar. Remember when we used to get together like that? This is like the lobby where honest, unscripted conversations take place and transformation happens. We'll talk about practical problem solving in the multifamily niche as well as overcoming mental roadblocks. This episode is brought to you by 3 Keys Investments. 3 Keys Investments is dedicated to helping people like you, you, enter the multifamily investment space to build passive income and legacy wealth. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed Ask Me How I Know, I'd be honored if you did. Thanks so much for joining me today, and now for our featured guest. Welcome back to another awesome episode of Ask Me How I Know. I am joined by one of the most effervescent real estate women that I know. Erin, I am so grateful to have you on the show today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here today.
I remember meeting you at the last in-person event that I attended in January of 2019 in LA, and it was absolutely amazing. You're just like a life giver, and you're so savvy. And not only are you an investor, but you're a freaking doctor.
Oh, thanks. So, you blush, friend.
I know. So I am, and mother, and like you wear so many hats, and yet honestly, you bring joy everywhere you go, and it is amazing. I know that there's some listeners out there that feel really overwhelmed by the weight of all the responsibilities in their life. And I know that you have been very successful. And I'm wondering if you could maybe share, a couple of your tips or strategies on balancing out everything.
Well, shoot, I wish I had the magic to share with you. I am so glad that my God gives me grace because I'm far from perfect, but at the same token, I delegate like nobody's business. So that is probably like my one nugget that I could drop. I do the best I can and I try and have as much balance, but thank goodness that I have help as well. So
I'll tell you what, that delegation can be really hard. I always say I'm a recovering control freak. So it takes a lot for me to delegate or even to accept some level of, there might be some level of chaos in my life at different points. And I just need to come to terms that that's okay. It's not failure.
Well, you know what? I will tell you that I can absolutely relate. When I was in my practice back in 2015, I had a business coach that I had been working with. And she straight up said, I was paying $1,000 an hour to coach with her. And she said, listen, if you do not go hire, I want you to hire 5 people to help you in your practice, because what you're doing is you are getting stuck with the $10 an hour jobs, and it's not the best place for you. So if by the time we coach next month, you don't have 5 people in your office that are helping you with just your duties, then I am not coaching with you anymore. And that's what it took. And it literally changed my whole entire life.
That is the best coach ever. I am so impressed.
No, it was actually. And it took at that point, I was working on, I had 2 different practices and I was running back and forth from the 2 different practices. And it allowed me to drop my hours down from 60 down to 28 hours, making more money with less time in my practice with the help of others. So it's pretty powerful story, which could be for a whole nother day.
Wow, that really is powerful. But the takeaway for everyone listening is you figure out those pain points that you can delegate or hire out. And even if it feels like it's a stretch to hire somebody out, I'm speaking to myself right now. Like, just hire the person out, make it happen.
Hey, listen, if it wasn't for that delegation, I'd never be in the spot that I am today. Because now all of a sudden, when I was in my practice and I had all this free time that was being opened up between patients, because I wasn't stuck doing those $10 an hour jobs, it allowed for me to branch off and to jump into the real estate space with the single family at that time.
Wow. I mean, because if you don't do that, like you said, you either open or shut doors in life. And I love that you opened those doors up. Now, I'm curious. I'm absolutely curious. I love Quattro Capital. I love your team. I think that they are the most phenomenal group of people. And it's interesting because I didn't know that you were all a team. And here I am, I'm connected with everybody separately. And then I connect all the dots and I'm like, oh my goodness, of course they would be together. So how did you get together with the team that you have?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Well, it just so happens that I was at a real estate event where there were 1,000 people there, and I was getting awarded for closing on a 104 unit within my first year of joining their mentorship program. And the lady that was the MC for the whole entire event, she said, "Erin, we have this award to give you, and here's your plaque. But could you just share with us what did you do to celebrate this incredible, experience that you went through and this awesome 104 units that you just took down?" And I said, "Well, I'm so glad you asked." I said, "Actually, our family loves to go outside the US and just go love on the people, the less fortunate." And I said, "So, how we celebrated was Nicaragua is near and dear to our heart. And we had built 12 houses in Nicaragua for these single moms that were living out of a trash dump, believe it or not." And I said, "We built our 13th house in Nicaragua, and my husband had just gotten back from there from taking my son there as well." And so that's where the family decided that we wanted to pour into. And I don't know what came over me, but all of a sudden I started to get really emotional. And I had explained why it was so important for us to take our kids out there and to learn how hard other people have it and how lucky we are to live in the United States and have everything that we have. And all of a sudden, before you knew it, I had these tears that were just coming down my face. And my good Lord just put it on my heart and I went for it and basically said, as a matter of fact, we would love to build two more if we can get two people to match us out in this array of people. And sure enough, this gentleman from the back of the room throws his hand up and he's like, "I'm in for a house for 5,500." And then a woman in the front said, "I'm in, I'll put some money towards it." And it was such a beautiful, beautiful moment. Within 10 minutes, we had raised over $55,000 to the less fortunate and
Oh
to
my.
10 homes in Nicaragua where our heart truly was. And fast forward that night, I went to bed and I said, "Lord, why did you place that on my heart?" And he so clearly says, "Those that step up to work with you, that give to such a great cause, are the type of people that I want you to line up with, that I want you to go in business with, because there is nothing more important than being flanked with people that are on a mission, that see your vision and the goodness that you want to leave in this crazy, wild world," right? So fast forward, 3 months goes by. I had followed up with some people from that event. And lo and behold, my partners in Quattro happened to be the first man that stood up in the back, raising to the occasion, and the female that was in front, Miss Kim Winland, in the front, who is a partner as well of mine. So I just love how things like that work and play out. And so I get the privilege of working with the most incredible team that I literally wake up every day and I say, "Pinch me," because they're that awesome.
And what I love is, I mean, just being acquainted with your team individually, especially, Kim and I had spoken some months back, and we just had this amazing conversation, and it was just so beautiful, and to connect up with, the other components of the team. What a treasure. But you guys love it. I mean, you can see it, and feel it, like, just in, over on social media and things like that. You can see that support and care, like genuine care for each other. And what a treasure to have as a team. But here's the thing. Most people step into multifamily and their idea is, I'm going to go leave my W-2 job and I'm going to invest and be free, quote unquote. But then they encumber themselves with partners that really don't align with their mission and their vision and their values and ethics. And so really, what was the difference, except for financially, what's the difference than potentially leaving your W-2 job? Because for a lot of people, that's a component. So I just love that you were so aware to just follow where God was leading you, because that is powerful. And if you don't follow that, you miss out on so many blessings and opportunities.
Yes, yes, yes. Very true, my friend.
Wow. Now, I just have to call it out right now. You are closing, 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 closing. Like Quattro is on fire. How are you keeping this momentum?
Well, that's such a great question. We are making some massive moves. I think that here's the thing: when we first came in together, it was really for our first deal in January, where we were just going to take down this joint venture, and all four of us came in for 25% of the deal. And at that point, we all had our own little entities. And fast forward, we ended up with, gosh, by mid-year, we were at 5 properties together, and we had some time to really get a feel for each other and our strengths and so on and so forth. And at that point, we said, my gosh, there's so much synergy here. I think it's time to do it. I will tell you, we all ended up doing background checks when we first started with each other, because I think it's very wise for
Yes.
any listeners out there, that it's just super wise just to make sure that, call it getting in bed or partnering up or being life partners with these individuals. And look, everyone checked out, of course, right? But it really was, there was so much synergy with our team that it was a no-brainer for us to do this merger. Well, fast forward, I feel like we get so many people that say, shoot, you guys have 5 people on your team. How in the world? I mean, look, most people just have 1 or 2. Like, man, you're really diluting what your returns are and the money you make. And, it's unfortunate that people see it that way, because that's not how we see it. We see this, you guys, coming from the single family space. You had to wear 5 different hats to take down a property, right? But could you imagine, you've got a team of 5, everybody stays in their lane, and execution is like boom, boom, boom. Why? Because everyone's at tip top shape doing their job, and we're so much more powerful together, right? And so, with that being said, we've been able to honestly just make massive traction, and we're flying like eagles. And we've taken down a lot in a quick amount of time. We work nice and efficient, and it's been incredibly fun.
You guys seem really, really nimble. Okay, so I'm just going to tie 2 things together. Then when you were working with your coach, when you had your practice, and she's like, you got to delegate, you got to hire. How do you think that affected your willingness to go on a larger team?
It absolutely, listen, for me, and I feel like I say this quite a bit, but truthfully, it's like when you're playing the game of Monopoly, right? And you land on Vermont and you collect $50, i.e., the single family house, right? Or you land on Boardwalk and you collect $5,000, 1 roof, 50 doors, right? It's about the economies of scale. And
Right.
in single family, you can't do what you can do in the multifamily space. For example, even with the single families, you can have 10 loans, right? But when you
Yeah.
go commercial, the sky's the limit, and it's all about based on the property. It's not based on, there's so many other factors, but comps, for example, and it's totally different. So you can really climb that ladder much quicker, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think you were more willing to entertain a larger team because it's like you were told, go delegate these $10 an hour jobs, like play to your strength, Erin, be, extraordinary, an extraordinary chiropractor. And so you stayed in your lane. Do you think that just that kind of shaping of who you were kind of helped prepare you for that, for joining, a team?
I wish perhaps I'm just a slow learner. Call it that. But when I first got started, I felt like I was trying to wear all the hats. I'd put on finding the deal, meeting the brokers, negotiating I felt like I was doing it all. And truthfully speaking, I felt like I had a little bit of burnout, right?
Yeah.
So after that first year of all of that going on and finally getting to link with the team, I think that's why I'm so grateful about it, because I've already walked in those shoes and I know how hard it is. So all of a sudden, just imagine you come to a team where everyone, my greatest strength, right, is somebody else's weakness and vice versa. So all of a sudden you have 5 people that are literally staying in their lane for execution. Could you imagine when you get to the end, close to that finish line, and everybody's bringing their parts and it just fits together so effortlessly? Which, here's the deal for me, it's more investor relations, negotiations. That's the lane I get to stay in. that's where I flourish. Can I do the underwriting? Absolutely. But is it best place for me spent?
Right.
Not at all. And so I get to stay in that lane of doing what I love versus trying to do all gamuts of it, right? So it's just beautiful the way it works.
I love it too. I've been hustling on my own, and now that I have a team, it's just, you know, if you trust everybody and you can say, okay, that is definitely your strength. I'm the macro person, and I always look for a micro person. Like, I married a micro, you know, like, I know I'm macro, let me find micro, where are you? You know, it's like finding that complementary strength.
Absolutely.
It's critical. So, okay, we've been talking about multifamily and all the benefits of multifamily, but I have a lot of friends, you included, that have that wild eye for the Airbnb model. And a lot of people are absolutely thriving with the Airbnb model. And I am wondering, what's your vision?
Awesome. Well, I will tell you, we did start of Airbnb about 3 years ago in the Hill Country. It's this big, beautiful home, and it's a high amenity home. And we bought it not just for that Airbnb, but what we could do with that land. I'm always thinking on exit strategy for one, and what else can we do? And being that I have 5 kids that I absolutely adore, I always had this goal that I want to find a way to help them get in the space, help them to flourish, not have the poverty mindset, to be an entrepreneurial, to have that entrepreneurial spirit, right? Is powerful. So we found this land, and it was on 5 acres outside city limits, unrestricted. So of course this
In
mama,
California. Hold on. Wait, yes, right? Is
Texas.
okay, all right. Because I'm like, hold on, girl. Unrestricted does not happen in California. Okay.
This is Texas in the Hill Country, and it had 5 acres. So I wanted to put tiny homes in addition down by our pond on this 5 acres. I had looked for quite some time, and I was going to put tiny homes on there, and they're just overpriced. If you ask me, I feel like they're overpriced. You can go, it's a phenomenon. Everyone's paying 70,000 to do it. You can go with a prefabbed tiny home, but those are going to fall apart in 15 years, and they're 45,000. Long story short, we did a lot of research, and we decided to put the containers. So we've got container luxury homes that we have on our land on the 5 acres around the pond. And here's my most favorite part about it. My oldest, my 16-year-old and my 14-year-old, each are owners of each of those container homes. And so we're getting ready to launch them, and they're coming in tomorrow and going to finish them out with all the furniture, help them to take ownership, put some sweat equity in. And from there, they're going to be the ones controlling the Airbnb on their phones. And I'm excited about that, just to equip them. So,
Okay, so you're excited about it. Let me ask you this. Are they excited about it?
no, they are excited about it, and we got to be fair, right? So my daughter, who's 22 now, she started at age 16. She bought her first investment property, and we helped her out a wee bit. So we knew that we needed to launch and keep equality, right? Otherwise, I'm
Right.
never going to get the end of it.
You won't. Absolutely not.
So that is what we created. We bought the containers, and they're helping us get them set up, and they'll be, having the interaction, learning how to talk to adults and people, because our children are so immersed in all this gaming and everything else that we got to keep that social interaction going.
I love it. So the container housing, I'll throw in that as I drive, so I live in rural North Idaho, and as I leave my little town of 2,500 in the middle of nowhere, it's like there's actually a company that they have the container and they have the cutouts for the window, and then I don't know if you did this, but they actually, put framing around the outside, so you wouldn't even know if they had actually finished out the framing, but that's kind of their model, to show you like there's a container in here. So how did you guys finish it out, and what is it actually like? And what were the costs of it? Like, this is amazing.
Cute. They're so cute. Well, let's go back to real quick on that delegation piece, because this is really, really cool. I actually have a partner in that container space. And so now we sell containers, but guess what, y'all? We are like direct with our manufacturer, and we're selling these containers, and Erin only has so much bandwidth. So just as you asked about what did I learn from my coach, this is exactly what I learned from my coach. I don't have the bandwidth. She's on the whole container side, on the sales side and everything. And so she runs that whole side of the containers, but they are shiplap all on the inside. They do not have the wood on the outside that you were talking about, but they're containers that just really create an experience for your Airbnb folks. And we really luxurized them. So they've got the faux beams, the recessed lighting, and farm door and whatnot in there for the bathroom. And they're just really, really cute and
They
something that investors are loving.
it's such an amazing opportunity in the way you can. There's so many. If listeners, if you just go onto Pinterest, if you haven't done this already, just go and look at container housing. Now, I'm going to also throw this in. My son, we were homeschooling back when he was in kindergarten, before people were homeschooling the way they are today, and that's what we actually had. So we pooled our funds and hired teachers. So it wasn't really homeschooling; it was called Not a School, and they actually had a container for his classroom. And so they had converted a container on somebody's property into, his kindergarten classroom. The ideas that what you can do with them are absolutely endless.
It is. It is. And people are looking for that experience. So it's kind of fun and different.
Yeah, it is. Now, what are you hoping, like when you're thinking about your kids? And I love this because you have been very intentional about teaching your kids self-sufficiency, teaching them responsibility and, ownership. So as you move forward, how much are you going to be involved with the Airbnb? Are you going to just be, 60,000 foot high level, or how will that work?
Good question. So listen, we have to set parameters, right? Just like with anything. So our kids have a certain amount of time that they're going to get to respond back. And if mom has to step in or dad has to step in, instead of them getting that 50% of the stay, they do not get the stay. It teaches them how to be responsible, to be timely and effective, and keep the communication alive, right? So look, don't tell me those kids don't have those phones in front of them.
Exactly.
If you get a message, let it go, and mom has to step in, then I'm sorry, you're out the funds, right? But we also are not making those funds available. They're part of a savings simply because it's all about duplicating their seed money. It's not, it's to further, for their legacy and so on and so forth. And so just with that being said, let me tell you, my she's 22 now. She started at 16. She actually just sold her single family that she bought at 16. And she's getting ready to now get into a 110 unit that Quattro is taking down. So talk about full circle. Like I'm like, as a mama, I'm proud, right? You want them to want to have a desire to grow their nut. And so anyways, fun stuff. You get to see it full circle.
That's amazing. And I know that there are a lot of this audience would resonate with that and, have that desire for their children. Now, are there any tips that you would give to parents who, like for instance, I have a 12 and a 9-year-old, like what are those things that you would say, hey, if you want your kids to get involved with this is where, where we started and this is where we had success?
Sure. So what we did is we created a Roth IRA. My daughter at the age of 16 created her Roth IRA. And not to get too far into the weeds on it, but basically we said, look, you've got $5,000 in the bank right now. And I know you really want to buy a car, but here's the deal. You put that $5,000 into a Roth IRA and you give us the other $5,000 that you have in your bank account, right? Which equates to $10,000. And we will give you this little small, it was a cheapie, like a $35,000 single family property. And we'll allow you to purchase that with your Roth IRA. So she purchased it with her Roth IRA versus having a car to drive, because we planted the seed and said, look, you can use mama's car. If you buy your own car, guess what? You're going to pay for your own insurance and you're going to pay for your own cash. And it is not going to be an asset. It's a liability. Yeah. So do you desire to put that money towards an asset that literally is going to be like a tree that grows fruit and produces, and it goes into your account every single month? And yes, sweetheart, you can't touch it, but you're going to be so grateful that you don't touch it, because it's going to duplicate and turn into more and more. And so now we're getting to see full circle what it created and what it turned into, and now where she's going with the funds.
Okay, I'm going to dive into this because I don't think that this type of conversation, one, there are few investors that can actually have this conversation. Let's be real, and some people, I mean, there are some people that have their children coming up, and some people that already have their, children and adult children in the business, but it's not really that common. So your daughter was willing to forgo the car, the liability, as you put it. I mean, that's a huge deal for a teenager to make that choice. Like, what a strong, good job, Mama Bear. Like, just that speaks volumes of your parenting. I wish she were here because it'd be really cool to have the two of you. So as she's at full circle, has she come back to you and said, thanks, Mom? Or what are her?
She's so good. Well, honestly, you know what? She's 22, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to be forcing anything down any child's mouth, but you can certainly create the vision and share with them what opportunities are on the forefront, right? So I was like, babe, Mom's getting ready to buy 10 acres and we're going to do a tiny home container park. Do you want to take your money and go into the tiny home container park? Or do you want to go into the 110 unit in Georgia, Decatur, Georgia? Because kids love options, you guys. There's upside and downside, which also lead to conversation to teach them. Is it more risky to go this way? Is it more conservative to go this way? What is the doubling of your money look like, right? And so for me, I gave the opportunities, but you know what blesses me more is when my baby girl from California calls me and says, Mom, let's talk shop about what direction we're going to go. That's what excites me, because I don't want to be feeding it in her mouth and forcing it. You want them to want to step up, take action, make moves, further their seed money. And there's nothing that delights me more than seeing that type of taking action.
Oh my gosh, Erin, I am so excited for what you have created. And it's just tangible. And it's not, it's more than business. It's your faith. It's everything that just like kind of just comes out of you, and it's such that go-giver mentality of the gift that you've even, you're giving your children and your partners and the residents, everything. It's just so full circle. It's amazing.
So much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
As we are wrapping up our time here today, I'm wondering if there's anything like I'm always marveling at how fast conversation time goes. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to touch on?
Yeah, I think it's really just going back to Quattro. I would love to link up with any of you that perhaps, especially if you're in our space and you're like me, you were like me for that year, not sure how in the heck you were going to move the needle forward simply because you didn't have the right partners or whatnot to work with. I think the big thing is that Quattro right now sees that there is a need and that there's other people that don't have partners that really could use some help. And so I think you can tell by what I've shared that Quattro has a desire to help other people win in life. And for those of you that feel alone and perhaps maybe you find a property, Quattro is willing to help you, and we make it super advantageous and a win for you to have the desire perhaps to bring a property our way and see if it might be a good fit. And guess what? We'll take you into the fold and we'll show you exactly how it goes, and we'll help to equip and enhance your skills and really hone in on those, but yet also allow you to work with an incredible team. So,
and I'm just going to add fun also. I love to have fun. I feel like work is work, and I don't mind working. I mean, I have a high work ethic, but you know what? I always like to have fun while I do it. I don't mind working, but I like to have fun. And what a great team for someone to be able to go and partner up with and learn from and grow with. So that's exciting. Absolutely. What's the best place for them to connect up with you, Erin, or how can they reach you?
Absolutely. So I recommend going to www.thequattro, and that's 2 T's, Quattro way.com. I would absolutely love for you to go check out our site. And believe it or not, you can click on each of my partners and they'll give you a little 1-minute video on each of them. And you'll feel like you stinking know them. You'll feel their hearts and their passion for this space that we get the pleasure of being in. And from there, you can book an appointment with any of the partners just to get to know us. There's no pressure. And it's just, how can we help you? And at the end of the day, I think you'll find out pretty quick that Quattro is all for you to win. But if we help you get what you want, come on. we're going to get what we want. So we want to see you succeed and have fun in this space, because it's been absolutely a great ride thus far.
I love it. Erin, thank you so much for coming on Ask Me How I Know.
You're awesome. I appreciate you, Julie. You are such a bright light, and I can't wait to see what you do in 2021, sister.
Woo, it's going to be awesome. For all my awesome listeners, I appreciate you. I am so grateful to have you here. Please remember, it's just one decision, right? Everything that you want, the freedom that you're looking for, it's one decision away. For Erin, that decision was, I'm going to delegate. Okay, so you know what that decision is. Take the action and find your freedom.
Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Ask Me How I Know. This episode was brought to you by 3 Keys Investments. They are dedicated to helping people like you, you, my awesome listeners, develop passive income and legacy wealth through multifamily investing. Feel free to check out their website, 3keysinvestments.com, to see if there is an offering that will help your portfolio grow and meet all of your needs. If you haven't already rated, reviewed, subscribed, liked, all of those bells and whistles, I would be absolutely honored if you would do that for Ask Me How I Know. Thanks again, and go make it a great day.